Hello and welcome to Islanders Anxiety from Lighthouse Hockey and the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Dan Saracini. Joining me on this Sunday evening via Zencaster is my friend Michael Lieboff. And Mike, it's been some kind of week since we last spoke. 2 trades, 4 games, 3 wins, one absolutely dreadful, awful, sloppy game at home, and now an upcoming slate of games that might be the most important week of the season. And for you, today was your daughter's birthday party. So it's been a lot going on the last 7 days. It seems like a bit of a lifetime. We'll get to all of it. But this was a weird week because I was, after Thursday's game against the Rangers, I was prepared to come on and be all happy and ready to go for the rest of the schedule before the Olympic break. But after watching that game in Nashville, I got to tell you, my spirits are low once again, despite being quite high for really the most of the week.
I think it's there's a lot of things going on. It's like an ensemble of situations kind of all coming to a head, and the Islanders aren't unique in that. A lot of teams are going to be going through the same thing with the Olympic break now looming and trying to get their house in order for the break, because right after the break you come back, that's the trade deadline and then the stretch run. But I do think with the Islanders there's a lot more going on than most because of not just trades and games and injuries, but also like the where they stand in terms of like the future and all this stuff. So there's like so much to consider about how you feel. And what do we, this podcast more than anything is trying to make sense of where the Islanders fit in your life and my life and everyone's life, right? There's still a goddamn foot of snow outside. We're all grouchy, but like, should the Islanders be making us more grouchy? Should they be lifting our spirits? How should we be feeling about, how do we feel? Not should, but how do we feel about the Islanders right now? And there's so much going on that it's kind of hard. So I want to get this out of the way first so it doesn't sound negative or whatever, but the Islanders are in a good spot. They're in a much better spot than we thought they are.
True.
They had a good week. If we both would have said three wins and a loss, especially with the way who the wins came against, how one of the teams that we played looked 2 nights in a row. Then, you and I were like, they got to do something. They got to get some NHL bodies in here pronto. They did that. So like when you look at it, the big picture, the week long picture, it is more good than bad still. And of course there's still the future to consider and how this is quote unquote a house money season. However you want to look. But if you now strip out all that context and take away even the preseason expectation context and nuance, and you just look at the standings right now, and you look at what the Islanders just did on Saturday, I don't think that there's anything wrong with being a little agitated or a little hot under the collar, because they're still looking over they're looking over their shoulder. Like there's the monsters are still under the bed because they have continually taken 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or in this week 3 steps forward and then 1 step back. And the way that the standings this season has shaped out, that'll keep you under pressure. They weren't able to keep pace with the Red Hot Penguins, who are 6. They've won 6 in a row. The Blue Jackets have won 5 on the spin, I think, since Bones came in.
Yeah.
The Caps just put a couple wins together. They're looming. So the Islanders would not. They'd be in. They're in a comfortable spot. I would say. Like there's 20 teams in the NHL or so that would trade spots with us. However many teams, but at the same time, it could be a lot better. And I think that's been a running theme here. So I don't think you're wrong or anyone's wrong to be a little ticked off with how that where they're standing because of how Saturday went and how it started and then went, especially and also the rap sheet of games like that, especially at home in front of big crowds. So like it's there's so much going on, so much to consider, and all the things that are sort of happening, they don't really contradict one another, but they also don't stack towards like an ultimate path or goal or whatever, if that makes sense, right? Like they had a good week, but not a great week. They made those trades, like a couple steps in the right direction. The future looks good, but at the same time, they keep shooting themselves in the foot in those situations. So like, I still don't see like a straight and narrow path that I'm looking down. Like the Islanders are heading there,
Yeah.
right? There's still these kind of forks that are looming, and I don't know if they're going to take a sharp left turn and all of a sudden we'll blink and the Olympics will be starting. We're like, wait, the Islanders are out of a playoff spot right now? Like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, and that's where I get to it. Like Saturday was terrible. I mean, let me start with by saying Monday through Friday was great. Saturday was terrible. And when I looked at the future, aka this upcoming week, and the first few games post Olympic deadline, so there's like a 3 week, nothing of nothing, and then there's these games coming up after that. I started to get very depressed because I was like, basically what you just said. They did all this work and they won all these games, which were great, which is exactly what we asked them to do. But they're still hanging on. Maybe they're not on their fingernails right now. They got a little bit more of a grip than they had, when we talked the week before, but it's still not comfortable. There's still too many teams behind them, and the games that are coming up are just absolutely massive. And that's why I'm thinking that like this week might be the biggest week of the season. And if they pass this test, then the week after they come back is the biggest week of the season because the points on the table and the teams that they're playing are super important. They're right there, and this can go a long way. We have a lot to get to. Again, we're going to cover all this stuff. We're going to talk about an article at the Athletic about NHL arenas at the very very end. No Master Leaf Theater today. Not enough time to be honest with you or anything like that. So we're going to get to all that. Reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Bonus content, chats, ad-free episodes. You know the whole deal. Try a 7-day free trial of our country club tier or just join for free to get our weekly release calendar. Do it any way you can. Patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Okay. Let us start with Monday because while the Islanders were playing the Flyers, 4-0 win. We don't really need to get too deep into the game. They were also making the first of their 2 trades this week, and that was for defenseman Carson Soucy for a 3rd-round pick from the New York Rangers. A very strange feeling. Only the 4th trade between these 2 clubs. The first one since 2010, which is always a weird thing. The first Islanders Rangers trade happened in 1972, so it's not like they've never traded with. But seeing these things happen is very weird. Carson Soucy, he's more of a stay-at-home guy these days, although he has, I think, shown an offensive upside in previous seasons. He was with Seattle before. He was with the Rangers. He was with Minnesota before that. I knew the name. I've obviously seen him play with a bunch of teams. One thing I learned about Carson Soucy, though, as he got traded to the Islanders, is he's a really handsome dude. I didn't know this about Carson Soucy. He's a very good-looking man.
Yeah, beautiful eyes.
Yeah.
Beautiful eyes. I'm like,
Yeah.
where you sure you're not Swedish, man? Like,
Yeah.
you're from Alberta with those things?
He's very much cut from the Valtteri Filppula cloth, like from that sort of factory. Not sure about the mustache, but frankly, I'm not sure about mustaches on most people. So, but anyway,
It's almost like I'm doing it because I can pull it off.
Yeah.
Look,
right,
and
right.
I'm like, yeah, screw you, man.
Yeah, exactly. He and his wife just had twins. They had another
Right,
one
right.
as well. So apparently this was a kind of a favor Chris Drury did to him, trading him to the next most local team, and so they can keep the family all in the same place. But I we'll get into the game in a second. But honestly, and it's funny that this was all going down while the Islanders were playing the Flyers. But like, I had no real feelings about this trade either way. A lot of people were losing their mind over a 3rd-round pick. I was like, you know what? A 3rd-round pick for like a 6th defenseman at or near the trade deadline sounds pretty like standard operating procedure to me, whether you're the Islanders or anybody else. So didn't move me either way. He's not the guy I would have picked. Certainly not a team I would have generally wanted to trade with, but I wasn't really moved by it either way. And whenever I saw people like kind of stamping their feet about this, I was like, dude, are we really doing this over Carson Soucy? Of course, that would come 24 hours later. We'll get to that trade in a minute. But what are your thoughts on the Soucy trade? I know you were very upset with the Islanders making a trade with the Rangers. I don't know, has that subsided at least a little bit?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, we spent the majority of the first half last week just being like, they got to get some bodies in here if they want to push this thing forward, and they got a body in for sure. And he's a serviceable bottom pair defenseman, and so far so good. It keeps it simple. And when they made the trade, I was like, yeah, I need somebody, but just not from them, And like that's just as a I don't know, not a throwback fan, but somebody who appreciates blood feuds and rivalries. Um, it made me a little sad that they were trading with the Rangers. It's one thing to trade Yuri Niemi for a sixth
Yeah.
round pick because it's just not nothing's gonna come of it. But yeah, this one was a little weird, of course, with the awkwardness of a back to back against his former team coming up that week. So I think it just took a little while for me to come to grips with that and forgive it. But when I did, like, if they traded a third round pick to the Nashville Predators for Carson Soucy, I'd be like, yeah, fine. But the Ranger thing, of course, does come into play with how you feel about a trade. But trying to look at it like objectively as like it just makes sense. They needed it.
Mm.
I did appreciate that after all this was done. Matthew Darche was like, I wanted to reward the group, and
Yes.
and that's, I think that was what we were basically clamoring for last
Right.
week, right? And not just the group, but not just the team, but also the fan base
Mm.
as well. That's kind of been sticking through this insane schedule, staying up late for 2 7-game road trips and all that. And so yeah, I mean, it made sense on there. I love that Butch calls him sushi. Makes me really really happy. And look, 8 years from now, you and I and everyone listening to this know we're gonna be like, man, that third round pick that the Islanders traded the Rangers is just posted a 967 save percentage and won the Vezina Trophy as they win the President's Trophy. Like, we know that's coming.
Yeah.
So at least we can enjoy these few years before that third round pick comes and haunts our dreams, like the
Mm. Yeah.
Peter Regan situation, and that turned into Igor Shesterkin. So, but yeah, that baggage aside, he's just made sense so far, and it's nice to have a defense, all 6 defensemen playing on their strong side
Yeah.
for once.
Yeah. Yeah, this scenario you just described could potentially happen. We all know how these things go with the Islanders, but I'm definitely going to worry about that. I'm going to cross that bridge when I come to it. I'm not going to worry about it yet, especially given how the Rangers draft. But yeah, so this sort of made sense, and I didn't really think much of it. And again, this was all going on while the Islanders were beating the Flyers 4-0. We don't need to spend a ton of time on this. This was, I thought, one of their most complete games of the year. They went up 1-0 on a shorthanded goal. JG Pajot, great feed from Casey Cizikas. And then the second period, they just sort of took the game over. Barzell tipped an Isaiah George shot. Later on, Duclair, Barzell 2-on-1. Barzell to D'Angelo for a one-timer, 3-0. They did a good job of limiting the Flyers. 3-0 is always kind of a dangerous lead, but then they opened the third period. Maxim Siplikov finally gets an assist this year with a beautiful cross-ice backhand pass to JG Pajot in front, makes it 4-0 Islanders. The game was academic at that point. Sorokin 21 saves, season as league leading 6th shutout. And I just thought this was about as well as you could possibly get from these guys. The Flyers never really had any kind of mounted offense at all. And I thought it was great. And then the fact that they added Carson Soucy afterwards was like, oh, this is just the cherry on top. It was pretty great. We will talk a lot more about Maxim Siplikov in a few minutes. I did think it was funny that this was where he finally got his own lone assist of the season. But what do you make of this game? The Islanders were also missing a few guys in this one. Cal Ritchie was day-to-day. He's still out with a lower body problem. Ryan Pulock missed this game with an upper body issue, and Simon Holmstrom was sick. But despite all that, I thought they played great. And this was, I think, one of the best. It wasn't the most exciting game we've seen all the year, but it was definitely one of the more complete ones that they've played.
Yeah, and one of the more surprising results too, because they're coming off that Buffalo game. We kind of felt the same way we do now, which is, guys, like, it's been nice that you've done well, but there are still plenty of teams nipping at your heels here, and you take your foot off the gas for a second. And one of them was the Flyers. The Flyers,
Right.
I think if the Flyers had won, they would be tied with the Islanders or 2 points back, whatever it was, the situation.
We spent a long time in the last episode talking about how important that game was. And so it was great that they came out and won it that way.
Yeah, and when was the last time they've had like a taking care of business game in a situation like that? I was trying to rack my brain for one, and it was pretty hard to come up with one off the top. So, but yeah, they took, there was a TCB, take care of business, kick your feet up, and that's just something that this team has rarely done in those situations when either their backs are against the wall or it's a must-win situation or it's a must-win before a must-win. So it was nice. It was a relief. And then because of the trade, there was like it's nice to have some Islander excitement after that way the road trip ended and the
Right.
Sabres game. And they and then of course you're looking ahead to the two games with the Rangers as well, and so obviously something happened before that, but it was a really good start to the week, I thought. And yeah, I mean, it was as easy a night as we've had as fans in quite a long time.
Yes. Yeah. The TCB game is very rare. That's a rare, very rare classification we've given any Islanders game in the last several years, but that was a good one. Rocking chair game, I guess, would have been another good one too. I mean, again, I don't want to say they were in danger up 3-0, but you never know. It takes one goal changes everything. But once JG Pajot scored that goal, it was over at that point. And again, a lot of the credit for that goal went to Maxim Siplikov, who 1 day later was no longer a New York Islander. You said that other thing happened. That other thing was another trade with our local rival. The Islanders sending Siplikov to the New Jersey Devils for forward Ondrej Palat, a third-round pick. So they eventually got the third-round pick. They traded for Carson Soucy back, plus a sixth-round pick. And this one, unlike the Soucy trade, I had a lot of strong feelings about this. And my first feeling about this, and I'm just going to be totally honest with everybody, my first feeling on this was, that's a fucking awful trade. I was like, come on. When I found out that the Islanders were getting the picks back and it was essentially just Siplikov for, Palat and these two picks, I thought, okay, it's now in that case, it's just awful. And I kind of downgraded from fucking awful to just awful. And now having seen him play, I've changed my mind again on this. We'll get to that in a few minutes after we talk about both Rangers games. But my initial revulsion at this trade came from the fact that if you know any Devils fans or follow any Devils fans on social media or something, chances are that they have not said one kind word about Ondrej Palat since the Devils signed him to a contract like 4 years ago. Obviously, he's got the background with the Lightning. He's won 2 cups. He's such an important utility player. He helped knock the Islanders out of the playoffs a couple of years in a row. But he has not had a good run in Jersey. And in fairness to Palat, when he came here and they did the interview with him, he said as much. He was like, I was not good in Jersey. I was not good this year. I don't think he had any kind of like excuse or reasoning. It just wasn't a fit. It wasn't working for him. And so he was looking forward to a new start. And as you read more about it, Nico Hischier and a lot of the Devils talked about how much they had leaned on Palat over the course of the years for advice as a veteran player, which I didn't know that until Arthur Staple mentioned it on the Tri-State Hockey Podcast. I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And they got actually a lot of good grades for this, which is, again, something the Islanders don't generally remember. Don't forget, the Bo Horvat trade was a lose-lose for the Islanders. Yet somehow the Ondrej Palat trade is like an unqualified win for them. It's not a home run, but it's like at least a stand-up double, I guess, is probably how you would describe it for most of these people. But I thought it was interesting. Pierre LeBrun called it a tidy trade, which of course is the highest praise anybody can give a trade. And like you mentioned, Matthew Dark's talking about after getting Carson Soucy, he talked about after the Palat trade, he talked about, again, rewarding the players, bringing in experience. He wanted to get the defense in their own zone better, especially from the forward group, and he knew that he could do that. And he actually said, he's played more playoff games than I have hairs on my head. So all of these things sort of combined to make me feel a lot better about this trade. And then we'll talk about how he performed in the 2 games against the Rangers. But what was your take on the Palat trade when it happened? I think we were both sort of like, I was like the last person on earth to find out that this trade actually happened. So like, I was like, wait, are they really doing this? And you guys were all like, yeah, it's done. It's already done. I'm like, wait, what? But I don't know if you felt it was nearly as bad as I originally thought it was.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll start with like how these trades were broken,
Right.
which is very different from what we've been used to over the past few years. Even pre-Lou, I feel like it rarely was like this.
Yeah.
It almost was like the Islanders were like leaking and like focus grouping the reaction. Like, because Soucy, they were like, sounds like Carson Soucy is like, there's a trade brewing between the Islanders and Rangers, and like 9 hours later it was official.
Yeah.
And then sort of the same thing happened in a more truncated window here. So not what we're used to.
Right.
And I think that added to how everybody felt about both trades, because we were nervous that the Rangers over the years have had a habit of trading junk for not junk. The Ducks. You can ask the Ducks about that.
Right.
Tough negotiator, Pat Verbeek sometimes forgets his tough negotiating pants when he talks to Chris Jury for some reason. But I so I thought that, and that goes back to like Scott Gomez for Ryan McDonough and all
Oh my
sorts of
God,
stuff.
yeah.
So there's a lot of baggage for that. And then the Palat trade, as you said, when that trade started to be pieced together, that the Islanders were acquiring Palat, nobody knows the return. They just know he's likely going to the Islanders. He's held out of the game. All you saw were Devils fans being like jumping for joy.
Yeah.
And what happens a lot with trades is that everyone jumps to conclusions. Obviously, we don't even know the return, and also you're dealing with the one fan base who has the scars of this tenure, whereas these trades are fresh starts for both these guys. Like the Ranger fans were not too impressed with Soucy, but I think that has a lot more to do with the fact that the Rangers just are a toxic environment right now and a terrible team than Carson Soucy. And the Devils fans, like he just didn't work out. It was a bad move for the Devils, and in their quote unquote wagon era where they were supposed to be the best team ever has not gone well, and he's almost been like the poster child for why.
You
So
could say that.
So like, yeah, you're parsing through that and you're trying your best not to let that affect you, because Ondrej Palat has never played for the New York Islanders before. So we don't know how he's going to be as a New York Islander. And if you were to put that baggage aside, and just look at the qualities that he would bring, you're like, well, this makes a lot of sense, because these are the kind of guys the Islanders have been bringing in to supplement the team during this entire Uncles Plus era, where they're bringing in the JG Pageaus, they're bringing in the Kyle Palmieris, the Travis Zajacs, the Andy Greens, the Robert Bortuzos of the world, right? They're, for the most part, they're bringing guys who have done shit before.
Right.
And Ondrej Palat has done a lot of shit. He comes into a locker room with a lot of other guys who've been around the league who played against him, and they can like look eye to eye with him and get what he brings to the table. It's also very important to note that the Islanders, I think, ended up at least +4 in kids in the trades. I know Max Siplikov has one young kid, and
right.
We're sorry to see the Siplikovs go, but they bring in 3 from the Soucys and I believe 2 from at least 2 from the Palats. So the team with the most kids in the league, it just grows by leaps and bounds. The family is just exploding. Right. So that's also important. So anyways, long-winded way to say, at first I sort of was like, this isn't gonna go well. This is weird. $6 million next year too. Like you feel a little kind of trepidatious about it. Also, I had a very soft spot for Max Siplikov, because last year he was good. Like, this was a good player and looked promising. You're like, well,
he had 30-something points last year.
Yeah, 34 points, scored in his debut, had like a skill set. You're like, when this guy adapts to the game, he could go from 34 points to 50 and be that Russian power forward that you want, and just never gelled. I guess with the staff, especially this year, and with how they wanted to play. And so that was a little, I had to like get through that emotion too of missing him. And then I was like, oh God, if Ondrej Palat takes number 18, that means that Pierre Engvall's days are officially over as an Islander. That would be upsetting. But no, I think eventually when you get through like all the noise and like just like sit and think of it almost from in a vacuum, it made sense. Like that this is and once again, what we were saying, they need to find a guy in an NHL body, a guy who could come in and he can produce more than Max Siplikov and Kyle McLean, and can come in and provide a boost, just a shot in the arm. And so the 2 things we were asking for, the general manager delivered. He just delivered them. It would have taken me a really long time to get to either Carson Soucy because he's a New York Ranger, and then Ondrej Palat because of just the number attached to his contract. But looking at it from just like purely in a vacuum sense, they both made sense. They both fill needs, and the early returns are pretty good for both. The one thing I will say about Palat, I do appreciate him wearing number 81 as an homage to Miro.
Yes.
They also both had 5 letters in their name, and it's letter, then A, letter, then the letter A. So,
Right.
like, there's a lot of that, but he has, like, a slight jersey tuck when he's
Yeah.
skating around, so, like, the bottom part of his 8 gets
Yep.
absconded, and it looks like
Yeah.
91, and I get, "Oh my god."
Drives me nuts. It
I get
absolutely drives
a
me crazy.
yeah. I was like, "This is a little weird."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
It
ghost.
looks it it looks so much like 91 that the Miro Shatan thing didn't even cross my mind
Yeah,
because all I keep seeing is a 91 there.
I
So,
know.
you mentioned the 6 million next year. That was another thing that made me kind of mad. And I was like, "Okay, were they going to pay $6 million to Ondrej Palat next year?" But then it was like I didn't realize that Sipakov was making like 2.5. So it's really like a
Yeah.
$3.5 million swing. It's not like, he was making nothing and then now it's 6 million is just all of a sudden on the books. And that made me start to kind of again adjust my thinking on it. And as I was like reading and listening to people talk and stuff like that, I came away with like I think there were like three sort of myths that people got kind of hung up on that made them sour on the trade. And listen, if you're not into the trade, I totally get it. I thought it was terrible right at first too, and I've only come around now, and it could still end up being terrible. I don't know. I mean, the early returns are great, but we're going to talk about them in a couple of minutes. But if you're still sour on the trade, you still think it's a bad deal. I totally get it. It's not like they went out and acquired Leon Draisaitl or something like that. I get it, but I think that there are these myths that kind of pop up that are getting people hung up, and maybe that it's preventing them from kind of seeing the bigger picture, like you just talked about. One of them is like I saw people being like, "Well, why would you give a division rival one you're technically competing for the same playoff space spot with? Why would you give them cap space? Why would you help the Devils out by giving them cap space?" Well, again, it's really only $3.5 million, right? For this season anyway, unless whatever prorated thing it is, it's not really that much of a difference this year anyway. But the second thing is, even let's say they don't qualify Sipakov and they do basically get $6 million off their books for next year. I mean, what do we think the Devils are going to do with $6 million? Like, I mean, they could trade for Quinn Hughes, I guess, but like, do we know that that's going to happen? My guess, my assumption is that what the Devils are going to do with that $6 million is they're going to turn around and find the next Ondrej Palat and give him $6 million. Like that's what these guys kind of do, right? They don't really learn anything, so I'm not too worried about much like the eventual third round pick that the Islanders give the Rangers. I'm not really going to worry about what the Devils are going to do with that money until they actually do something with it, because to me, that management group is probably run out of runway too. Palat might be just the first of many dominoes to fall there. So I'm not too worried about giving the Devils cap space because they haven't really shown the ability to use that cap space in a positive way when you really think about it. I mean, they're trying to get rid of Dougie Hamilton, and he was the last guy that they gave a lot of money to. So I'm not too worried about that. Second thing was I saw people being like, well, this means that they're going for the playoffs, which means they're definitely not going to trade Lee or Pajot. And again, I feel like we've talked about this. I know we've talked about it on our mailbag things. Like, I just don't see how a team in a playoff spot is going to trade its captain and its very important third line center. Even if the Islanders were still in their same spot that they are in now and didn't make those trades, I still don't think those guys are getting traded. I've been adamant that they're just going to re-sign Lee probably to a 1-year contract or something at some point. I just can't see him getting traded, being moved. I know he's looked very slow lately. I think it's a deployment thing. I don't want to get into it, but I just never saw that happening anyway. And like people are still trying to trade Pajot. Well, the team is like he's scoring goals for them and keeping them in a playoff spot. I don't get it. To me, this is like fan fiction that people have kind of gotten in their head that they think is real. It's like when people go to see Star Wars movies and they're like, this isn't what I pictured for these characters. This movie's terrible. It's like, well, yeah, because you didn't get a vote. Like George Lucas didn't call you up on the phone and ask what you want, or Dave Filoni didn't call you up on the phone and ask you what you wanted to see in the movie. They're just doing what they think is right. I don't think Lee and Pajot was ever going to get traded. If they bottomed out, then maybe Pajot would be traded, but they're not going to a playoff team isn't just going to trade their third line center because Twitter said so. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. And then the third one was people like, well, why are they making these trades if they don't think that they're a cup team? You really think that this team doesn't think that they can win a Stanley Cup? I think that we might have a different opinion of it. I don't think they're necessarily a cup team. You probably don't either. I'm sure a lot of people don't, but I don't even need to be in the room to tell you these guys all think they can win a Stanley Cup. No doubt about it in my mind that in their minds, they think they can do it. So to them, these are two guys, maybe not the only two guys, but these are two guys that are actually going to help them in that way. So I just thought that these were kind of things that people had gotten in their minds and were, again, it's totally fine if you don't like the trade, but I feel like people are kind of seeing things in their head that maybe don't
Yeah.
actually exist and aren't really happening, and are using that as a reason to not like the trade, as opposed to like, if you don't like the trade because Ondrej Palat's not a good player, hey, I get it. Yeah, that's totally fine. And he's making too much money. I totally get that. But like, let's not throw the guy overboard just because whatever you thought in your head wasn't gonna happen, because that was just like there basically.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone gets fed the same stuff, for to put it nicely, I guess, from the hockey media right now, which is
Right.
just trade board after trade
Yeah.
board. Who are they going to be the biggest pieces moved at the trade deadline? You're reading that on like September 3rd, and then that spawns a bunch of things and conversation, and so it was like that. Everyone decided before the season started that JG Pageau was going to be a great trade chip for the Islanders, and so was Anders Lee, and um, because that was what everyone was dealing with coming into the season. It's still kind of hanging over your head, but yeah, the GM just said he wanted to reward the group for the start and the fact that they're in a playoff spot. And I would say that if he then traded away the captain and one of the beating hearts of the locker room,
Right.
he would. I'd be like, well, you lied to us, like, and I don't think
Right.
that's what you want. So, yeah, I would say, and as you said, like it's so funny how even a trade as simple as a third round pick for a depth defenseman, and putting the once again, I know there's some complications, and I was dealing with them because of the Rangers situation. But it's just so funny how a trade like that, which is so innocuous on the
Right.
surface, if that trade happened 19 years ago, 20 years ago before Twitter, and the way we found out the Islanders had just acquired Brad Lukowich was because we flipped open the news day and we're like, oh yeah, Islanders traded for Brad Lukowich.
Mm.
That's great. None of us would be like, oh well, this means that the course of the franchise has shifted significantly. They do believe they're going to win the Stanley Cup. No,
Right.
this is a filling a need. Both of these trades filled a need, and now we move forward with these guys, and I think that it's good that they were added to the roster. Adding to this roster is important.
Mm.
I don't think that the GM should be done adding to the roster as
Yeah.
if they truly want to go somewhere. So, yeah, but I think this locker room, this core group of souls, especially given what we know about them, I think they just always generally react well to this stuff
Mm.
because they've had so many seasons where they've had to scratch and claw their way to the 8th seed, or even the year that the pandemic happened, like the wheels were falling off. Adam Pelech tore his ACL playing
Right.
sewer ball, and like they just know they've got some serious scars on them from stretch runs, and so like something like this that comes in, I think really jolts that group, and it did. So, and
Yeah.
it certainly did the next 2 nights.
Right. Well, that's a perfect segue. So these they make these two trades. Who are the first team that they're going to play against as Islanders? Why? It's the New York Rangers on back-to-back nights, and the Islanders have already taken the first two games of the series, so they're going to obviously try and go for the sweep. For Carson Soucy, this is a very rare and strange, existence where one minute on Monday he's a Ranger, on Wednesday he's playing against the Rangers. I'm sure it was very strange for him. But how did the Islanders do? Well, they won them both, 5-2 on Wednesday. I think overall another good game for them. Simon Holmstrom passes to Palat in the first period on the power play. Bang, 1-0 Islanders. Place is going crazy. It's the new guy. He barely just got here. And all of a sudden, first of all, he's on the power play, which is like, why? Second of all, he just scored a goal against the Rangers. So he's already like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. Holmstrom also had a nice tip in the first period on a Tony DeAngelo shot. Mika Zibanejad scores, makes it 2-1, and all of a sudden you're like, this is getting a little bit too dicey. But the second period, they just sort of took over. Started out kind of sloppy, but then the Rangers took 3 penalties in the same shift. Nobody has ever seen this before. 2 to Sam Carrick, 1 to Matt Rempe. The Islanders don't score anything on the 5-on-3. Jonathan Drouin, we need to have a conversation about at some point. But Barzal does get one, makes it 3-1 on the 5-on-4. 40 seconds later, Pageau whacks in a Gatcombe rebound, makes it 4-1. Taylor Radish makes it 4-2, stuffing kind of a loose puck underneath Sorokin. But then with 48 seconds left, Emil Heineman in the slot from Palat, 5-2 Islanders. They did a really good job keeping the Rangers, at bay in the third period. They only had 2 shots on goal the whole time. Excuse me, I said Sorokin before. It was Rittich. He made 13 saves in this game, and he was okay. He wasn't great, but he was just good enough. Spencer Martin had 31 saves, and he still lost 5-2. That's the kind of performance it was. It was, I don't know if it was dominating is the right word, but certainly in control. Holmstrom had 3 points. Palat had 2. Was the first star of the game. Got the Iron Man mask. I mean, what a welcome that is. Then in game 2, the next night, the Islanders win again. They sweep the Rangers in the series. It's just a 2-1 game. It's pretty boring for most of it. Late in the third period, who scores to make it 1-0? It's Carson Soucy, the new guy. Again, the other new guy scores against his former team. As I'm still laughing about that goal, Matthew Schaefer, beautiful goal creeping in from the point, makes it 2-0 Islanders. It got a little hairy in the second. Zibanejad again makes it 2-1. He's the only guy kind of working for the Rangers right now. Tony DeAngelo took an abusive officials penalty from the bench. Nobody still knows what he said, but they killed it off, fortunately. There was a couple of scrums. Sorokin made a big save on Mika Zibanejad towards the end on a one-timer. Lee got hooked on heading towards the empty net. Why they didn't just give him an empty net goal, I have no idea. But again, it ends 2-1 Islanders. Sorokin, 20 saves. He was excellent. John Quick, 19. This is the third sweep of the New York Rangers, but the first one to all be in regulation, no overtime games. And it was pretty juiceless, frankly, until about 5 minutes left in the second period. And then for the third period, again, it was pretty tight, but I don't care. I will take a sweep of the Rangers any way I can get it. This was about as enjoyable a 2 days as the Islanders can have. It was just a really great way to kind of end that series. And I saw somebody on WFAN was like, well, it's not a real sweep because the Rangers aren't really playing. They've thrown in the towel. They weren't trying. Bro, they swept the Rangers. Like that's not don't write that stuff in the record books. It just goes down as a sweep. So really great 2 days, and the fact that both new guys contributed in meaningful ways was just awesome. I mean, I was on cloud 9 for all three of those Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It was just a great time to be an Islanders fan.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to put into words. One of the things too, I was talking about at the top of the show, how there's all these situations and emotions kind of coming to a head, and one of them is that the Islanders are just in such a better spot than their rivals right now, and that can all change, of course, with a blink of an eye, or a bounce of a ping pong ball, and we all know that. But right now, we need to just appreciate that the Rangers are in an absolute shambles right now. They are a shambles, and it almost to the point where did it feel like they were playing the Rangers on either of these nights? They kind of just
really.
felt like the Chicago Blackhawks or the San Jose Sharks or the Arizona Coyotes or Ottawa Senators, Red Wings. Those like kind of rebuilding teams in their we're tearing it down to the studs days, right? When they were staring down a rebuild but hadn't really started yet. And you just are looking at like a bunch of demoralized 600 game NHLers skating around and being like, I freaking hate all these guys and I don't want to be here anymore. So it was really weird because it almost felt like the Islanders were just playing some random team, and it also felt like that random team just wasn't interested in playing. And
right.
Not that it took anything away. I was hoping that there'd be a little bit more chin wagging from the Islanders, especially when the Islanders got that 2-minute 5-on-3
Yeah.
against the New York Rangers. I was like, I've never seen that call made for anyone where they call two guys on the same play, and the only team I ever see that get called for is the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
Usually when they're down 3-2 in a playoff game and they're like, oh, we got to do something here to get the Rangers into the next round. And they're like, all right, we'll call 2 penalties on the same play with 4 minutes left in the third period. That should help. And
it was so strange. Nobody had ever seen it before. Like everybody was like, I don't know if that how does that even happen? But
and of course the Islanders spit the bid on the 5-on-3.
Right.
It's the power play is another cause for concern still. But anyways, enough negativity about these 2 games because it was awesome. And the fact that Palat scores right off the gates, and that's another thing too that it took a couple minutes to come into my mind after they trade for him. Like I've watched Ondrej Palat score some really, really back-breaking goals against the New York Islanders, but I've also seen Ondrej Palat score some gigantic goals against the New York Rangers in the playoffs for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the New Jersey Devils. So he did score against the Rangers as a member of the Devils in that series. So yeah, he's already an Islander just by virtue of those goals. And to see him start with that goal, and the Islanders kind of just pick up from there and carry it all the way through the end of the second game was great. The sushi goal was incredible. And just you just watching a bunch of exasperated New York Rangers, whether they be players, fans, coaches, that's never going to get old. So it's really hard to imagine a higher kind of moment as a fan in a long time. Like this was great, and the Rangers had like just scratched Artemi Panarin as well before the
I
game.
want to talk about him in a few minutes.
Yeah. And so like there's just like all this good stuff was happening to the Islanders at the expense of the Rangers in a way. I should say all this bad stuff was happening to the Rangers, and it felt like that in turn turned into good stuff to the Islanders. And while the Rangers were also melting down, the Leafs were melting down as well. So like there was just so much. This is turning into a hate watch season for the record books. Like it's hard to imagine how these two teams could be shooting themselves in the foot more than they are right now, and that's chicken soup for the soul, regardless. And putting the Islanders in the playoffs, it just adds to that. So, what a great couple nights to watch the Islanders. The first three games of this week, man, just a huge game in terms of the stakes and the standings. Obviously, the Ranger games, like those 2 points each night, were huge, but to just watch their soul get sucked out of them was incredible, and they just had no fight back. There's one play where you could see Vinny Trocheck, who we just despise. I think it might have been Emil Heineman, but there was like some little fracas in front of the net. Yeah. And you could just see him being like, his instinct is, oh, I got to give this guy a little chirp or something, or maybe a cross check to his kidneys or whatever. And then he realized, what's the point? Yeah. He just kind of like skated off, because this guy just gonna be like, dude, you guys all hate each other. This is great. Everybody knows all your dirty laundry. The entire league knows. This is awesome.
Yeah. I saw a lot of Rangers fans, because now I'm starting to like lurk in the Rangers subreddit, which is probably not smart on my part.
No, that's good. It's healthy.
Especially after those games, I had to, right? You got to. And so many of them have turned on Trocheck, which to me is kind of shocking, because, like, again, he seemed like a pretty heart and soul guy for so long.
Par for the course.
Yeah.
Like
right.
Once you stop being producing or overproducing, you're dead to them. They'll drive you to the airport.
Basically. I want to get to Panarin in a few minutes, but another thing that made these two games incredibly sweet was the performance, not only on the ice, but off the ice, of young Matthew Schaefer, who is really coming into his own. He was on the back page of Newsday with a cool headline, "Kids Are All Right," or something along those lines. Talk of the Town is what it was called. And after the game, particularly the one in the Garden, he was sort of holding court. He was on the radio with our friend Alan Furing, and Alan was like, "This kid's going to put us all out of business." Because he said, "I hope he plays until he's 50, because if he decides to pursue broadcasting one day, we're all out of jobs," because he's just such a natural with the microphone. He's saying that our fans are louder than their fans. He was the kid who said, "We're going to beat the Rangers every time we play them," and so far, he has managed to, make good on that promise.
I just want to stop you right there. That was my one bone to pick. There was the MSG broadcast showing that video right before the third period started, with the Islanders only up 2-0. And then the Rangers immediately scored a power play. I'm like, yeah, I'm about to be really mad at somebody that I shouldn't be. But Anyway,
but then the next day, it's not over, because Schaefer calls in to Boomer and Gio in the morning to talk to the one and only Boomer Esiason, of course, radio guy now, broadcaster now, but a huge Rangers fan, a New York Jets legend, of course, and Matt Martin's father-in-law. And so they know each other a little bit. They've been going back and forth. It's a little hard to hear what Schaefer says. His connection wasn't great. They were like, "Hey, tell Matt to up the internet package out there, because we can barely hear what you're saying." So it was really funny. They were going back and forth. It was hilarious that, like, Boomer was like, "I've seen you play on the ice. You're amazing." And then you go home and, like, I've seen you wear an inflatable Santa suit to play with the girls, and all that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, I hope that suit was inflatable, because I know Santa is open to a lot of different interpretations, but I've never seen like a skinny beanpole 18-year-old Santa Claus. That's one interpretation I've never seen before. But it was great, because what's funny, what started out as chirping and laughing, eventually, in all seriousness, gave way to like Boomer being like just grandpa, and like talking about how much he likes, this kid hanging out with his grandkids, and like how nice he is to his daughter and his son-in-law, and how great they are as like a little mini family. He joked about Sydney packing his luggage and stuff like that. So it was really great, despite the audio problems. And so again, this is all added to the ambience of like, oh my god, this is just the greatest thing ever. I mean, they're chirping each other, and I gotta tell you, there's a long-standing story in Islanders history of Mike Bossy meeting Bill Torrey after getting drafted and being like, Mr. Torrey, I'm going to score 50 goals for you. And Bill Torrey kind of just laughed. He was like, yeah, okay, kid, whatever. You guys, you score 50 goals. All right, that's fine. And sure enough, he scores 53 goals. He sets the NHL, rookie record. And that stuff doesn't come around too much. And here we have another kid. I'm not saying that, Matthew Schaefer is the next Mike Bossy. Obviously, they play different positions. It's apples and oranges. But like, for this kid to come in, for this kid to say at the draft, I know how much it means to beat the Rangers, and we're going to beat them every time. And then they sweep the Rangers in his first season in the NHL is just mind-boggling stuff. Like, that's just like, that's not supposed to happen. The fact that it happened with one guy is crazy. The fact that now it's happening again, like 40 years, 50 years later, is even crazier. So kudos to Matthew Schaefer. What'd you think of all that stuff? I know you're a WFAN listener. You probably listened to it live, and I listened to it on tape. But it was awesome, and the things he's doing are just great.
Yeah, my friend said to me, I actually thought like the audio problems were added to the charm of it, because he was just kind of as an 18-year-old would, this is an 18-year-old still, right?
Right.
That he's just like, oh, like whatever, like doesn't even care. And sounded like he was eating as well at the same time as he's like doing this. He's on WFAN doing an interview, and he's chomping down on something. He is such a breath of fresh air in terms of any sport, right? Like, no matter what sport he'd be, he's so different from what you usually get from these number one overall picks who've been trained and kind of had the personality trained out of them and replaced with here's how you don't get yourself in trouble, here's the party line, here's how you just say something without saying anything at all to the media and get on with your day, because if you don't do that, you can find yourself in trouble and whatever. And maybe honestly it's because he only played those 17 games last year, and nobody thought of him as a McDavid, Celebrini, Matthews like prospect, at least to start. There was a debate whether he would stay the whole past 9 games, right before opening day, right? So there was, after even the first game of the season, and maybe that's why, like, so like he just didn't have like the vulture circling him, because people were like, maybe it could end up being a waste of our time to try to sink our teeth into this guy with our communications firm or whatever. But he's just so disarming. He's so
right.
If you remember, like, there's Boomer Esiason is one. I've given Boomer some a piece of my mind when we left Barclays Center a few years ago. The Islanders beat the Rangers in a shootout, and I was like, making fun of him, whatever. And he just kind of did what he should have done and kept walking and not even giving me the time of day. But like Boomer Esiason, Cal Clutterbuck, these are guys who are
Paul Bissonnette.
Like they're guys who they're tough to stand in a phone booth with, right? You're not gonna like just swing back and forth. And not only does he do this, like he does it in like with a smile on his face and a laugh, and basically saying like, dude, like, it's hockey. Why would I take it any more seriously than it should be? It's just a bunch of guys with skates on chasing around rubber. Like, that's not serious business. And that's why I think people are gravitating to him from all walks of life, because we just haven't seen much of that in any sport, because of, as I said, like with the age of social media, everything is content now. You can't let your guard down for a second. You can't be the PR. Every player is basically their own PR firm in
Right.
front of themselves, right? And you can't, you're not supposed to let that guard down, but he doesn't even have that in him yet, and he's 18 and shows it. And to be that disarming, where you can leave like Cal Clutterbuck with a shit-eating grin on his face. He's like, you like that, Clutter? And he's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I did. Because these guys, like, think about what it must have been like for Scott Mayfield or Bo Horvat or Matt Barzal or whoever
Right.
to walk into a locker room and meet this kid and be like, yeah, he's our number one pick. He's probably really good and talented. And then just to have this kid just goof off.
Right.
That's what he's a goofball. Like, he is just an absolute goofball. And then be like, he's not only is he a goofball, but he's the best player on the team already.
Yeah.
Like, I should be jealous of him in a little way, but he makes it impossible to feel any bit of ill will towards him, whether it be jealousy, whether it be anger, whatever it is. And to have him pick up right away what it would mean to this fan base to have an Islander stick their middle finger up at the Rangers, it's awesome. Like, it's so great because you hear once again the can dancers like, oh, we hate them, they don't like us, we know how much this means to the fan base, and this kid on the draft room floor is like, no, we're gonna beat them every game, and then they go ahead and beat them every game, and it's just
right. Now what's gonna
bizarre.
What's gonna really suck is that eventually the Rangers are gonna win one of these games, and it's gonna be pretty insufferable. But still, so far so good, and
so far so good, and we don't have to worry about that until at least next October. Which is
exactly right. And you mentioned Barzal and Horvat, and like those guys let it sneak out a little bit. Remember, Bo, I'll tell you that for free.
Right.
Barzal has let these things out. He talked about the dads being well lubricated, and he got on Shannon Hogan's case about it. So she said something, and he gave it right back to her. So like it's there. It's there a little bit. But you're right. Nobody has it in spades the way this kid does at 18. I mean,
18.
Those guys are 27, 28 years old. That's one. I mean, they've been in the league 10 years. I mean, what are you going to do? Bo Horvat says, oh, it's weird. Who cares, right? But like this kid is 18 and he's doing this.
And he's playing 28 minutes a night or whatever the hell he's doing. He's scoring 15. He's setting records. Like the personalities usually come out from Zenon Konopka types or you said, Paul Bissonnette or whatever. Like there are certain roles in the sport where your personality becomes more important than your skill set because it has to, because your skill set's only going to take you maybe another season. And then you're off to the AHL or worse. And this guy's like, no, not only am I going to be the best player in the league, or could be the best player in the league at some point, I'm also going to be the most likable face out there. And I'm not, and he's not doing it in the he's a hero to us now, but like the Mitch Marner way of, it's like, it feels incredibly forced and cringy. And
I thought you were going to say the William Nylander way.
Yeah, then William Nylander is another one, right? Like a perfect way, right? Like William Nylander, Mitch Marner, these guys feel like it's incredibly forced, and they're doing they're pandering almost to a crowd, and
look at the fancy suit I've got on. Look at all the time I take on my hair. It's like, meanwhile this kid's just like goofing around, like you said. It's just very different. So that 72 hours following and from Wednesday, really because of the Flyers game, and even if you weren't into the Palat trade, you were still probably pretty excited starting on Wednesday. From that point all the way through Friday, life of an Islanders fan was pretty good. Then we get to Saturday, and I almost hated talking about this right now because I don't want to leave off on a bad note, but this is going to segue us into our second half when we talk about the next upcoming games. Saturday was a 4-3 loss to the Nashville Predators that at UBS Arena. Started out terrific. They had 2 goals in 6 minutes. Barzal right off the bat bats a puck in like a couple of seconds in. It's amazing. The place is going crazy. And then Schaefer from far side shoots in a wrister, his 15th goal of the year. He passes Bobby Orr for goals by an 18-year-old. Only Phil Housley is ahead of him at 17. Everything's coming up Islanders. And then Adam Palat takes a penalty, and the whole game just fell apart. It was tied by the end of the period. Philip Forsberg, 6 seconds into a power play, made it 2-1. Matthew Wood, scores, ties it at 2 just before the end. They got a power play at the end of the period, but it was awful. It was completely terrible, as most of them are. JG Pageau made it 3-2 early in the second, but they were playing like assholes. I mean, this was a pure playing like assholes game. We haven't seen one in a long time this season, but they just continued to play like assholes. And Patrick Waugh, in fact, even said that second period was maybe the worst period they played all year. If it wasn't for Sorokin, they would have been down probably 6-3 at one point, but he held them off as long as he could. Philip Forsberg wins a face-off, and he ends up tying the game with another pass from Matthew Wood, ties the game at 3. Absolutely brutal period. Tony DeAngelo in the third period has a goal waved off because Anthony Duclair got called for goalie interference. And this was very much like the Columbus game last year with Kyle Palmieri. He's not in the crease. He's standing in front of the crease, and the opposing goalie reaches out to him, pushes him away. Goal is scored. It gets called goalie interference. It's frankly, this is bullshit. Like, I don't understand. I don't know if other teams this is happening to them, but like, Duclair was screening the goalie and he got called for goalie interference. It was awful, but there were a few chances back and forth. At one point, it's 4-on-4 because Adam Pelech and Cole Smith are both in the box. And with about a minute and a half to go, Roman Josi from the point makes it 4-3 Nashville. That'll be the final score. Heineman had a chance kind of with the goalie pulled, but UC Saros made the save. Saros made 27 saves and one great sell job on this bullshit goalie interference penalty. Sorokin made 38 saves. This game was not on him. He was the only Islander who was actively playing. I wrote sloppy, soft, bad D, awful power plays, just an inexcusable game from top to bottom, particularly with having the 2-goal lead made it even worse. And I'll be honest with you, this game is 48 hours old now. I mean, it's almost 10 o'clock on Sunday. The game ended, around this time on Saturday. So 24 hours later, I'm still mad about this. Like, this is like, even if you had lost, okay, that's fine. I guess it happens. What are you going to do? And they'd won 3 in a row. But man, to play as sloppy and as terrible and as soft, really soft as they did in that game was just, it was mind boggling. It was inexcusable. And with the week they have coming up, I was just so mad. I couldn't even comprehend it. I don't know how did this happen? Even Patrick Waugh looked really confused at the end. He said that second period was like maybe the worst period they played all season. So I don't know. Nobody really had any excuse. And the come down from, 24 hours prior was just brutal. I don't know. What'd you make of this one?
Yes.
It was bad. Am I wrong to be still mad about this 24 hours later?
And you said exactly what I think the thing that is bugging me the most about this game right at the end there, which is just the come down is, that was like getting just some cold water splashed right on your face.
Yeah.
To wake you up from a dream, because, these guys, once again, massive game against the Flyers. Check that box, make a couple trades, bolster the lineup, 2 more boxes checked, beat your rival, embarrass them.
Yeah.
In their own building. They're getting booed off the ice. They're sweep the season series straight for the first time ever. We are really high, like when you're talking about high points of the season, boy, that they don't come much sweeter than that. And you just fed and they start this game like their hair's on fire. They look awesome for the first 8-9 minutes. The Shabanov, Barzell, Duclair line looks like, oh my God, those are 3 psychos together. And sometimes when you put 3 psychos together on a line, it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And it looked like that they might have found something with that from their first, few shifts together in that one. And then from that point on, and also like, so it's Isla's birthday weekend as personally. And so I'm having like a great time, and I'm like, I can't watch this game because it's making me mad. I don't want this to
ruin the birthday party.
So basically it's on in the background, and I'm thinking I'm not like paying attention because I know what this game looks like just by the little bits that I'm checking in on. And I mean, this was a dog's breakfast, man. It was inexcusable, I would say, whether it's game 1 or game 82 from a team that is in the playoff race. And it's just such an annoying habit that they have, that they keep doing this in front of big crowds at home.
Packed house, Saturday night, coming off a 3-game win streak.
Full throat.
Again, 2 goals in first 6 minutes.
Yeah, place is bouncing. And they just have had too many of these at home.
Yeah.
There's also the Predators thing, right? Like they just
Yeah.
there was a game a couple years ago where they could have. It was in November, but I remember Noah Dobson got a puck behind his own net with like 8 seconds left, and all he had to do was just stand there, and the Islanders
Right.
would at least get a point. And instead, he just sent a very weak clearing attempt up the board for no reason. I think it landed on Roman Yossi's stick, and it was in the back of the net with like 8 seconds left. They don't get a point there. They lost to the Predators, I think, that same year in the road, right before they lost to the Blackhawks to get Lane Lambert fired. Like they have a way of the crazy game. I know it was a dead rubber because the Islanders were already out of it. But like last year when they were up 3 or something with like 6 minutes left in the third period, and the Predators came back and won that one in overtime. So it's just they have a way of doing this against this team. But yeah, there's just been too many of these situations, and they keep coming. They keep coming at tough spots where it really does look like the Islanders are so close to just pushing the door open and going into we're comfortably in this now. Like we don't have to look over our shoulder for at least a week, and now we're gonna spend another one doing it because of this game. And yeah, if they had played a little bit better, a little tidier, maybe you're feeling a little bit better about the result. But they didn't give you any.
No.
They didn't give you any reason to be like, well, yeah, it's just you're gonna lose games. Like, no, you don't need to lose a game like that when you're 2-0 in front of a Saturday night crowd after 3 straight wins, 2 over your bitter rival, 1 in their barn, and that's a tough way to send you into a week that is, make or break now, because the Caps, we'll look ahead next week, but like starting it off on Monday night, like the Islanders, they once again have not played themselves into a position where they could afford to take a breath and take a night off, and that's makes it a little scary coming up to the week, given how the schedule looks.
Yeah, this week in particular, and just to tie up the Predators game, it was I kept kind of, and maybe this is a testament to how this season has gone so far. I kept waiting for them to pull their heads out of their asses, for lack of a better phrase. Like, okay, listen, you take a 2-0 lead. The other team is going to be pissed off about it. Maybe they tie the game at the end of the period. You know what? It's not a crime. It happens. It's okay. You come out for the third, you get a lead pretty quickly. I think Pageau's goal was like maybe in the first 5 minutes or something. So you're given another gift of another lead. You'd think that this would be the time when the team pulls together and is like, okay, let's get real now, play back to our structure, get back to what we do best, and, take this thing and forget about the first period. But they never did that. Like I said, they just played like assholes for the rest of the period. They were absolutely terrible. And then even in the third, D'Angelo's goal gets waved off, but like you still have a little bit of momentum. They never got the momentum back at all. And, anytime you lose a game within the last 2 minutes or something in that neighborhood, it just feels awful. But this felt especially awful because it cuts down to the 2-minute mark and you're like, okay, look, they've been bad. Let's get to overtime, get a point out of it. Maybe win in overtime. They basically played the whole game like they were in overtime already, trying to get fancy with the puck in between legs and stuff. And Nashville was just, give the Predators a lot of credit. They were all over the Islanders. Their defense was tight. That was a Barry Trotz coach team. It looked like they were all over them. And so you think, okay, maybe with the 3-on-3, some of those fancy plays will work, and it just never did. And then Yossi scores, and it's like, well, now we're not even going to get that. And it was just a demoralizing, huge come down from where it felt. Thursday's game felt like 100 years. It had happened 100 years earlier from this game, and it was just really awful. And so that is where we are now, where we had the highest of highs in the regular season to now the lowest of lows, and they are going into a gauntlet of games just before the Olympic break. We are going to take a break right now. We're going to come back on the other side. We're going to talk about those last 3 games going into the break, and then we got another article from The Athletic about NHL arena kind of polls or whatever that we're going to talk about in a few minutes as well. So meet us on the other side. Thanks.
And now a word from our sponsors.
VintageIceHockey.com. Over 100 classic hockey logos on t-shirts, jerseys, hats, mugs, and more. Long Island Ducks, Albany Riverettes, Danbury Trashers, Kentucky Thoroughblades, and so many more. Plus a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch with our portion of the sales going directly to the Center for Dementia Research. These incredible items cannot be found in stores, so shop vintageicehockey.com today. Relax, sit back, and enjoy wine from The Pinot Project. Rosé, Pinot Grigio, or a Pinot Noir that was named a Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. These wines are delicious, affordable, and available at area wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. And please, drink responsibly.
Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Every sip of Coca-Cola brings you closer to the excitement of the FIFA World Cup 26. Because nothing compares to the joy. So grab a Coke and drink in the FIFA World Cup 26. No purchase necessary. 13 plus in 50 U.S. states and D.C. with a web-enabled device. Ends March 1st with 8 entry periods. Rules at cokeurl.com/soccer rules.
Before we get to the Islanders' upcoming schedule, here's a little bit of our own schedule. Obviously, you're listening to this right now. Friday, brand new episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast about a weird Islander that I wanted to talk about for a while. He had a great run playing for one of the teams that the Islanders are actually playing this week, and it's with a guest who hosts an amazing podcast. I hope everybody goes to check it out. You'll find out what it is on Friday. If you're tired of listening to us, definitely check out this person's podcast because it's amazing. And I'm really looking forward to this. I was editing this podcast today and it really came out great. So check that out on Friday. Next week, we will not be recording Anxiety on Sunday. Okay. We're going to be recording on Monday. So that episode is going to come out Tuesday. So apologies, but next Sunday, we're going to be taking off. We're going to record on Monday and that episode will be out Tuesday morning. Okay. Just so everybody knows. So Weird Islanders on Friday. And then Anxiety on Tuesday. And also on Tuesday, we're going to be doing our mailbag episode that week. So I'll let you all know about that next week. Okay. Okay. Let's look ahead to the Islanders' upcoming schedule. And again, it's a bit rough. Monday, the day you're listening to this, they are in Washington, 7 o'clock to take on the Capitals. Then it is right around to come back home to host the Pittsburgh Penguins on Tuesday. That is a TNT game. I apologize. 7:30 start for that one. And then finally, Thursday, they're in New Jersey for their final game before the Olympic break. They'll be off from the 6th through the 25th, and then they come back on the 26th to play the Montreal Canadiens. We'll talk about that when we get there. I couldn't think of 2 worse teams to play at this moment than the Capitals and the Penguins. The Caps are right behind the Islanders. They're only 4 points there. All those wins the Islanders racked up last week, they only managed to get a 6-point cushion, which sounds great until the Capitals start winning, and all of a sudden 6 becomes 4. This game is enormous. It is more enormous than the Flyers game they played last Monday, but the Caps are also a better team. I listened to one of the great podcasts to listen to. Thomas Hickey was a guest on the PDO cast with Dmitry Filipovich. It's absolutely fantastic. And he talked about the Capitals. And he's like, this team has everything they just don't get the results. I just don't know what it is. And so he thinks that they're a resurgent team for the second half. Let's hope that resurgence doesn't start on Monday because the Islanders don't need that. Even if they get out of that game with a win, which is a tall order, then you got to come back and play the team that's directly in front of you, which I think it's a 2-point. Is it a 2-point lead or a 4-point lead the Penguins have on the Islanders right now? It's so it's a 2-point lead right now. The Penguins have 67 points. The Islanders have 65. This is an enormous game. If the Islanders can win it, if they could take this back to back, that's huge. And then Thursday against the Devils, you got to beat the Devils again. They're not going to beat them 9-0, but I mean, you can't let that game lapse. It's much like the Nashville game. You have to take it. Of these games, which is the one that you think is the most important? I mean, I don't know if you can really choose between the Capitals and Penguins, but like, I guess they have to beat the Capitals, right? Because if they lose to the Penguins and they're 4 points back of them, I guess that's not as bad as being 2 points ahead of the hard charging Caps, right?
Yeah. That Capitals game is massive. So I think that just if you flipped them, we would say the Penguins game is more important. But
right,
the Caps have been the team that even when they were like 5 or 6 or whatever points back, I'm like, well, this is a team that can absolutely win 8 in a row, and we'll be like, well, we should have saw that coming because they do have everything. They've got they'll have the break for a lot of their best players as well, like John Carlson. I don't think is going to the Olympics for the Americans. Maybe he is, but I don't think he is. And obviously Ovechkin, and I know their goalie's going, but there's just not as many key players for them. So they'll be like a rejuvenated bunch after the break. We also don't seem to play well against this Spencer Carberry coach Caps. I don't think either. Like
the last time the Islanders played the Caps just straight up bullied.
Yeah.
Like
they did beat him that one time, but it was a Sorokin shutout game where he just was, I think it was on Halloween. Like he was really good. Then they did beat him when Ovechkin scored but the Caps didn't have any reason to like play that game anyways afterwards. So like when the games have mattered, it felt like the Caps can kind of just like strangle the game out of the Islanders' hands. And so yeah, it's a daunting one. The Islanders will be underdogs, and you don't get 2 points out of that one, or you hand 2 points in any way to the Caps. Having to turn right around to take on the Penguins it's tough with the way that Pittsburgh's going and how important those 2 points will be for both teams. The Penguins are home against Ottawa the night before. They've won 6 in a row. And the Islanders, let's just say they do lose to the Caps. The Penguins beat the Senators, and then the Penguins beat the Islanders. It's like, well, they're not going to catch them now. It's
right.
The Penguins would be, well, in that situation, 6 points ahead of the Islanders with a couple games in hand. That's going to be really tough to overcome. So yeah, this is basically by the time you wake up Wednesday morning, we'll have a pretty good idea of what the stretch run is going to feel like, because they'll have one more game before the break, and we'll know where they are after those games. But right now they're not, I wouldn't say they're on thin ice at all. Like they're in a good spot still. They're in a much better spot than we all said. That can change so quickly, and they're now competing on 2 fronts. They can obviously get into the playoffs, top 3 in the Metro, and then there's the wild card spots, which the Sabres aren't really losing much. The Bruins have been on fire for a while. They're playing outside in Tampa Bay right now. I don't know what's really going on in that game, but
the Bruins are up 4-1, and then the Lightning tied the game 5-5, and now they're just about to go to a shootout.
Gotcha. So yeah, well, okay, but and like you expect the Panthers at some point, you think at least will make a little bit of a charge. So there's still so many teams that are in like the Islanders rugby scrum here that it's really scary. And it would have, I think even Thomas Hickey pointed it out on the broadcast, who's before the game started, was like, that game against the Capitals is going to be huge, and if the Islanders find a way to beat these Predators, no matter what, they'll be at least 6 points ahead of them with a game in hand when that puck drops, which is a lot better than 4 and the Caps win, and then all of a sudden they're only 2 back, and then the Blue Jackets will be right there too. So Yeah, it's not not uh not an not an ideal way to feel right now, given like you want that's that's what's been so complicated about this team is like you just want to enjoy this ride. It's
Yeah.
been for so much more good than bad. There's so much good stuff happening to the team with the personnel with Schaefer. There's so much bad stuff happening to teams you want bad stuff to happen to. So there's all this stuff that like you're trying to just really relish. But at the same time, the team is just making it scary enough that you have to almost solely focus on them in the standings and the out of town scoreboard. And you're like, I want to stop thinking about this, and I just want to laugh at the Rangers and I want to laugh at the Leafs, while also knowing you guys are safe and sound in the playoffs. And we just can't. We've been so close to getting there. If the Islanders had just turned the screws on a couple of these lesser opponents, like we're feeling so good. We're like this. It would take a collapse to miss the playoffs. And now it's just no. It would just take a 0 for 4 against the Capitals and Penguins, and the Islanders could, So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
yeah.
As if it's not bad enough that the Caps are right there. The Blue, I can't. I don't want to. I don't want to discount the Blue Jackets, who you said they've won 5 in a row. They're right there. They are not left for dead. Like they're
5 in a row, 9 of 10.
Yeah, right.
And they're going to be the pet team, right? Like the Penguins. And the Penguins, the Islanders, if they're in a race with the Penguins, the Capitals, and the Blue Jackets, you can be rest assured that everyone's going to be pulling for Sidney Crosby because they're morally obligated to, I think.
Yeah.
And for the Blue Jackets because they're, that of their kind of just moribund history and bones and all that and the story. And so just get ready for that too.
Yeah. Right. And so all of that is very daunting, but I'm going to say something that I have never said in my entire life as a hockey fan, and certainly not in the 10 years that we've been doing this podcast. I don't think people are talking enough about the Penguins. Like this team is really good. We have given Kyle Dubas all of the insults that we can possibly hurl at him across 2 teams now. And I got to tell you, you got to give credit where it's due. The trades he's made this year have really worked out. The Stuart Skinner has been great for them. They picked up Igor Chinikov from Columbus recently. He's been great for them. They've got guys like Ben Kindle who have come up from Wilkes-Barre that have played really well. There was another trade they made that has worked out pretty well. Crosby and Malkin are still what they're doing. Chris Letang is really on his last legs at this point, but like even Erik Karlsson is playing well for the first time really in his tenure with the Penguins. So like this team is really good. And I don't know how that's going to translate into the playoffs. I don't know if I would still trust them there, but like this is no joke. And I think, and not that I think people listening to this thought they were a joke, but like it's amazing how not enough people are really talking about this Penguins team, despite like they've almost been getting the Islanders treatment, which is like, oh yeah, Crosby's great, but they don't really talk about like the different things that are happening with this team that are really good. They just talk about the one thing and then they move on. And yeah, Crosby has been good. Obviously, he's Sidney Crosby still, but like that team is legit good. And I can't decide which game to be more worried for, the Caps or the Penguins game. Again, if they lose to that Capitals game and they beat the Penguins, well, I guess it's better than nothing. That's for sure. If you beat the Caps and then lose to the Penguins, it's probably still okay. I don't know what the Caps schedule is like. They might have a back-to-back that time too. So to me, you got to win both of these games. And I just don't see how they get out of here if they don't win both of these games, it's going to be pretty dicey 3 weeks. And then you throw in the Devils game at the end, which, on paper should be an easy win. But it never really works out that way. So maybe we get an Ondrej Palat revenge game and, it works out okay. And, hopefully that's not the only game they win this week, but I don't want this 3 weeks of, Olympic break to be like just, kind of like waiting. Cause then I got news for you on the other side of the Olympic break, they start in road games in 2 places they never fucking win. Montreal and Columbus. Those are the first 2 games. And then they go from Columbus to UBS to play the Panthers. Like that's just as brutal as this week is going to be. So I'm very nervous right now. I don't like it.
and like the Olympic break has been looming for
Yes.
a while, and it's just been talked about ad nauseum. And the thing that's been most scary for me is like I've almost been resigned to the fact for when did they announce they were going to the Olympics? A year and a half ago. I'm like
Something like that, yeah.
Oh, the Islanders will just lose like 3 in a row before that break, and like I'll just and we'll go a month without having seen the Islanders win because
Right.
of how long it is, and you're just stewing for that whole time. And So that's, yeah, I mean, that's a horrifying thing to be like, wow, they could this is easily the most important stretch of the season. Especially these first 2 games. And it could spoil the season after the highest of highs. We could just have a season spoiling 3-game losing streak coming here, and then have to go into I guess it would be 4 games, go into the break with that taste in your mouth after all that hard work, right? Like all the hard work of this season, getting it to this point, and then just to have it ruined would really suck. And obviously the other side of the coin is they win and you go into the break and you're feeling great, but right now it feels so, it's just hanging in the balance, and it's been hanging in the balance for months and months. And we've been saying it all along, like it didn't have to be. It just didn't have to be. If they had just, they could have played like assholes 4 times instead of 8 this season, right? And
Right.
and they would have, and we would not be in this situation. And as you said, to have the Penguins be where they are, it's been so agitating. And to have them, the way that the season started too, right, with the Islanders and Penguins, they haven't played since that game.
Yeah,
since
right.
Jonathan Drouin Joe Drouin got suspended for, I don't remember who he cross-checked in the face, but somebody. And Schaefer scored. Shabanov scored in that game, or he got an assist or something.
I think it was Shabanov, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's been a long time. And when that game ended, I don't think we're like, well, the Islanders suck, but the Penguins also suck. And these teams are going nowhere. Now they're 2-3 in the Metro, and that game could be just absolutely crucial. So 7:30 start. I might try to get to that one too, but I just, these are playoff games. Like it's as simple as that. Like these are as important as a regular season game can get, and to have them coming up where they are, it's tough. So pretty scared.
Yes, I agree. So there you go. We hope everybody's really excited for the week coming up here. We are going to end this episode. I don't like ending episodes on a sour note like that, but we're going to talk about one thing real quick, not really related to the Islanders at all, but The Athletic put out an article this week. James Myrtle was on it. I guess he must have compiled some of these results here, but it's called Ranking All 32 NHL Teams' Home Rinks from Montreal to MSG and more. And it's all the arenas are ranked based on these poll results they got from fans on location, amenities, atmosphere, affordability, and then they got a fan score and then a beat writer score. They polled beat writers as well, and then they had an overall score. First was Bell Center, Montreal, really not surprising there. T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, number 2. Benchmark International Arena in Tampa Bay is 3. I guess they weren't grading based on the names of these things, because Benchmark International Arena is an absolutely terrible name. And then it's a bunch, Bridgestone Arena, Little Caesars Arena. 6th is Nationwide in Columbus, which, despite the team's failings, is actually, I've heard many great things about. Grand Casino Arena in Minnesota, another terrible name. It's had about 6 different names since the Wild have played there. Climate Pledge in Seattle is 8. And then at 9 is our own UBS Arena, which is a pretty good score. I mean, for a building that's not really that old. The rankings, though, where it fell, I think are really, really interesting. Like 9 is a good overall score, but like it got ranked first in amenities, 9.4 out of 10, which is great. It got an 8.7 in atmosphere, which is 5th, which, sure, when the Islanders are jumping, place is loud. I think that's more of a testament to the fans than anything else. And so those are really good scores. And the fan score overall was 6th. It was 8.2. Fans really like the arena, which, we're not easy people to please. And I mean, coming from a historic Nassau Coliseum, that's a really, really good score. I mean, they deserve a lot of credit for that. However, the beat writer score was 6.1. It came in 18th out of arenas from the beat writers. More on them in a minute. The affordability scale, it got a 5.7 out of 10, which put them 16th. If you've ever been to UBS Arena, you know that it's expensive to eat there. This isn't Nassau Coliseum. Like, yes, you have more than just hot dogs and popcorn, but it's going to cost you. That Shaq's Big Chicken sandwich doesn't pay for itself. It's expensive. It's good, but it's expensive, as we all kind of assume now. but location, it got 28th, ranked 28th. It's a 7.0 over 10 out of 10. And this was where I thought it was actually funny. Again, give somebody credit that we don't always give credit. Myrtle writes in the little write-up, he writes, wow, okay, we hear you Islanders fans. You hate the parking situation here almost as much as John Tavares. So credit to James Myrtle. That's a good line. I like that. But he's right. The parking situation here is not great. And I think that's what's contributed to the location score. And also the beat writer score as well. I mean, these guys got to park. I don't know where they park, but it can't be all that easy to get to. Now, that will change once the hotel is up. And I'm sure those beat writers are staying in a fancy hotel and getting all the room service they can eat and stuff like that. I'm sure that'll change. But parking was the biggest issue. The arena itself is great. It says nearly 200 of you flooded our survey with plenty of love for the new barn. High praise for the high-end facilities and atmosphere. The location score, however, takes a big hit due to the struggle to get there, which is part of why the beat writer score is low. I normally we read these things just to get mad about it or take issue with it. Honestly, I thought this was pretty fair. Gets a good score overall. It's ranked in the top 10 of the NHL. I think that's actually really, really good. And especially for us, that's a real boost to, I think, Islanders fans. And, maybe it makes people think, oh, maybe I should go check that place out. That being said, it's not perfect. And I think the team knows that the parking situation somehow will need to be rectified. The shuttle bus, great idea. It's not working. Maybe I've heard people float an idea of like maybe a tunnel underneath Belmont Park to maybe kind of lessen the walk around the park. Maybe that would help. I don't know. Maybe they could heat it so it's not that cold out there. I don't know. Maybe put up another garage. It's easy for me to say. It's not my property, but like, I don't know. If that's the thing that's keeping this building from being one of, say, the top 5 buildings in the NHL, I feel like it's probably something that they're going to need to address. And, we're all making it work now, but I have yet to hear somebody go to UBS Arena and not complain about the parking. So what'd you make of this? And like, are you with me? Like this is, I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty good score to be in the top 10 is out of 32 teams is really good, but there's some definite issues that need to be addressed before they can really kick it up into the next stratosphere.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, it's a new building, so you're happy that it's up there. And one thing that we've said all the time and is noted is that like, so I think someone in the comments or one of the excerpts was like, it feels like it feels like they put a lot of thought and effort into making it feel like the building we deserved after whatever all we went through, which is true. We always say like it's Islander land in there. When you go in there, it's Islander land. There's orange and blue everywhere. There's Islander cards, the Islander Hall of Fame. It's big pictures of Islanders everywhere. There's even you'll see like Simeon Varlama's face all over the place still. Like so, it's Islander land, and I think that can't be understated how important that is because places share buildings, and to have one teams share buildings, but to have one that is just solely dedicated to the Islanders is still takes some getting used to. And yeah, I mean, you just that when we kind of took our guy Kelly the Cheese Man to task when he had that first interview because I thought it was maybe not tone deaf, maybe it's a little harsh, but close to tone deaf. And he was really flippant about the parking.
Yeah,
he's like, I don't know of one building, any building that has perfect parking situations, but I would have pushed back and said, I can't. Nobody knows still. The Islanders have been playing in that building for 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been. And still nobody really understands how the parking works at this place and who's allowed to go where and all sorts of stuff. So I think that it surfacing again in a media outlet, we know how sensitive the team seems to be, how they're perceived in these places right now. So the fact that it gets raised again, hopefully, is just another push to kind of get that rectified because it needs to be, and it's still crazy, and it's only I feel like it's got to get better, but it feels like it could still get worse with the like the Belmont construction and when that track starts going again, and who knows. But overall I thought it was a pretty fair representation, and hopefully they can keep this thing on the rails here, get a couple playoff games in that building and win around and get it to sound like the the Coliseum did in their run in 2021, and because it will sound like that, like the sight lines, the slow ceiling, it's all built to sound like the Coliseum, and it just hasn't had a chance to really let its hair down yet. And I hope that they don't screw this thing up and they give us that.
Yeah. No, that's all true. It part of me wonders if like maybe when the hotel goes up, that contains some sort of parking element that'll be really helpful. But yeah, the whole garage, like the best place to park there is the garage. But unfortunately, unless you're a season ticket holder, and even if you are a season ticket holder, you can't use it. So I don't know what the plan was for that, if it was always going to be like that. But that Emerald lot, man, just you might as well be parking in Uniondale, and the game and the arena is actually in Elmont. So, and it's great as it is to have a train there. It's also kind of a schlep, especially in the winter months. So, I mean, listen, we're all doing it. We're all making it work. I applaud everybody who goes out to these games all the time. I wish I got to more games myself. And so I don't want to make it sound like too big a deal, but that does seem to be the biggest obstacle right now in keeping UBS from being a really, 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 top tier arena in the NHL, which would be kind of a cool feather in the Islanders' cap, because they have never had that. Even when Nassau Coliseum was new, it was never like a top tier arena in the NHL, despite what County Executive Ralph Queso said back in 1972. Madison Square Garden, by the way, came in 10th in the rankings, so UBS is run right above it. So once again, the Islanders beat the Rangers in this one time. I was surprised that Rogers Place in Edmonton was 11th. That place always looks pretty sick from when I watch on TV. And then rounding out the top 12 was the Madhouse on Madison, of course, the United Center. I'm sure it's probably looking its age these days, but it's still ringing from a lot of the games during the Kane, Taves, Crawford, Keith era. I'm sure I've always wanted to get to a game at United Center. I have a lot of friends in Chicago. I'd love to see a game there. Coming in 32nd, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering, is Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa, which again, you talk about, the Islanders and Senators are linked in are brothers in when it comes to arena issues and follies, and it sucks. It's really terrible, and I feel bad for Sens fans who are still waiting for this thing to get sorted out. But hopefully it will soon. They'll have the Le Breton Flats set up there, which I think would be really, really cool. And hopefully they get what we got now, which is a great building. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's a great building, and hopefully they can get to that spot as well, and people can stop complaining about it. They don't have to worry about like moving to Quebec City or something. So Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, 28th. I think the writers here are just sick to death of going there. Or maybe it's just I don't think they had a ranking for jerseys thrown on the ice, which probably would have elevated its score a little bit. Okay. This has been long. We had a lot of stuff to get to. We're going to wrap it up here. Like I said, next week we will be back on Tuesday. So adjust your listening accordingly, but we will be back. Weird Islanders podcast out this Friday. Reminder that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, chats, a whole bunch of stuff. Sign up any way you can, join for free, or try a 7-day free trial of our country club tier, get all that kind of stuff. We got our mailbag coming next week. We'll talk more about that next episode. Our theme song is Morning Haze by Family Dinner. Listen to more of their music on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcast are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Find us anywhere you get your podcast. Leave us a review where you can. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Mike, any final thoughts on the week that was or the week that's coming up? Again, it started out great, and now we're in a much more precarious situation that I don't think you or I or anybody really likes, but that's the reality of it, and we just got to hope that the Islanders pull through this week.
Yeah, that's it. And we just it's been exhausting in a different kind of way than most seasons have been. Like like the past few have been exhausting because every game's felt like a must win. This one, right. The exhausting nature of this season has been like the precipitous drops from the highest of highs to the and like we're not talking rock bottom, but like you just get pulled down from any high like we had this week, or that crazy road trip when they went 6-1 and they sweep the Lightning, then they lose to the Panthers like the next night, and then it's the come downs have been the problem here. That's what's making it feel exhausting. So hopefully they can just ride into the Olympic break on a high, because then we don't have to worry about it, right? You don't have to worry about the next game till February, whatever. So just hope that next time we talk we're not ruining that we're going to have to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for the next Islander win.
It's gonna be a long 3 weeks, man. It's gonna be a long 3 weeks. Please win at least 2 of these games. That's all I'm begging you. Please win at least 2 of these, if not all 3, because I do not want to spend that 3 weeks, looking for curling and figure skating to take my mind off of what's waiting on the other side. But we will be back next week to talk about what happens this week, and we'll be back all through the Olympic break. So don't worry, we'll be here. Maybe we'll even talk a little bit of Olympics, but we hope you'll be with us. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.